from Awesome EVs. I'm Australian and I have been driving the BYD Dolphin Premium, the car I'm sitting in now, for about a year. And I've done 7,492 kilometers in it, and this is my first EV. So I've tried a few different EVs, but this is the one I have experienced all my firsts with. So going out and charging this car at charging stations, etc. So if you are interested in BYD or the BYD Dolphin or what it's like to own an EV for the first time ever, this video is for you. I'm going to try to cover everything possible, but then you will find heaps of follow-ups on Awesome EVs. So let me take you through it. So there are a few different ways to get into the BYD Dolphin. You've of course got your typical car key. Then you've got a little button on the outside that you can press if your car key's in your pocket. You can tap a BYD NFC card that comes with your card on the mirror. That'll unlock the door just like the key will. And you can even get a BYD app now, which allows you to unlock the car and do things like start the air conditioning remotely, which is amazing for a hot summer's day. I actually haven't been using the app. I wanted to see if I needed a smartphone on me to use this car. No, you don't, but there are some amazing additional features with it. But in saying that, you often do need to have a smartphone to do charging outside of your home, which I'll get into later. But now we've talked about getting in the car, I'm going to do a deep dive on everything interior. So once you're in, you'll put your foot on the brake, you'll press the start-stop button, and the BYD will turn on. You've got a small screen here with the odometer and all those kinds of details, and you've got a main screen here. The screen usually looks a lot brighter, it's just very dim on camera right now. Flipper handles, you've got like pink here, but this to me all looks purple, but I don't mind that. This is my little dump tray, I should use that. We've got a little compartment down here. This closes up if you want. We've got cup holders, which I have said in my first initial impressions is pretty small, like it only fits certain things in it, so it's not the best. We've got an additional park brake, but there's also one on the interesting shifter here, which I'll talk about in a second. I love this. This is wireless charging for your phone. So you just chuck that in there and your phone will start charging. But again, the shifter, it's so cool. You just push down here to go into drive, press up to reverse, which reminds me, the reverse cameras are incredible. The quality at night, the quality during the day, the sheer amount of different angles that you can access on this thing, 3D, like this is actually insane. It's so high resolution. I've tried heaps of different cars now. Some cameras are just awful. This one's excellent. BYD is crushing on this one. Back to the shifter, the parking brake is also here. I think that is so quirky and cute. I love it. Also, if you haven't already heard, it's raining. Now, there's a little bit of storage under here. What have we got? Some notes, some popcorn, a tripod, box of tissues, and a little jar of goo that cleans your car. I will say, see, look at this, like, it's just a bit awkward, kind of hard to access sometimes, so I don't use it that much, but it is great for a tissue box or maybe a small handbag or something. These are the car vents, which I can turn off or turn on. It's a little bit blocked by the screen sometimes if you want to go this way, but otherwise I quite like these. I will say though, there's no vents in the back. It is a bit more difficult to get airflow down the back, but because it's a relatively small car, I just blast the vents and then it just cools down everything anyway. Love the electric seats, so just go backwards. The car seat comes up relatively high, so if you're short, it's really easy to get in and out of the car or see over the dash. And you've also got tilt back and forward. So you go up, down, forward, back, tilting of the backrest. While we look this way, I will say, I find the visibility when you're doing shoulder checks really great. It cuts off a little bit if you're incredibly short like me and you've got the chair quite forward. But if you're a bit taller, then it's super easy to see out that side. Also, it's just super visible generally the whole way round. And I love that BYD put these little corners for more visibility. Sometimes this section feels a little bit in the way, but I think this kind of makes up for that. There are just no issues with being able to see what you're doing. Now, when it comes to the touchscreen, there are so many different customizations. Like you can make this light or dark mode. And I will say it's incredibly responsive. Like not all touchscreens are that lightning fast. I review technology for a living and talk about EVs, and that is high quality. The touchscreen also has this amazing feature where you can use 3 fingers to swipe to turn up the fan speed. You'll hear that now. Turn it down. And 3 fingers to change the temperature. No lag. It's just absolutely insane. When you're driving, that is one of those incredibly important features that I can just do while looking straight ahead. So I can be like turning up the fan speed or down. Can't get it exact, but I can just go, whoop, turn it all the way down. Not to mention, the software keeps getting updated, which is something really funny to get used to with owning a car that is essentially like a computer on wheels. Before, this car only had wired Apple CarPlay, but now they've done an update where I have wireless Apple CarPlay. So that is connected to my phone now. It has Android Auto wireless already, but now I just put that on the wireless charging dock. Now I can just use my iPhone on here, so handy, or go back to BYD. The wireless Apple CarPlay thing is such an amazing feature, but you know, some people say, oh, I prefer the wired connection because I know my phone's charging, but you can potentially charge it wirelessly if your phone has that capability, or you can just have it plugged in and it can be doing either way, wired or wireless. I love that you have both options now in a software update. You can see there's a regular USB connection for connecting data and charging, and then there's a USB-C charging port and a little SD card slot, and you have your regular old school cigarette lighter situation. The touchscreen does turn vertical. I haven't really found a reason to use this yet, aside of Maps, that is the navigation app that comes with the car. So BYD's navigation app, that's cool. My dad says it's great. He has an Atto. I haven't been using it. I'm a sucker for Google Maps. Here I just want you to see how good condition the seat still is after, you know, using it and having passengers in it for a year. Now this is the passenger seat, but my seat that I'm sitting on right now looks the same. So I'm really happy with that. By the way, in mentioning the sunroof, I haven't particularly used it because I just feel like that's a luxury feature I keep forgetting I have in this car. But what it is amazing for is putting your seat all the way back, opening it up, and then looking at the stars. Like date night, hello. Oh, still going. Still going. It's pretty good. These seats, I just remembered, are also heated. Seat heating is the most goated feature in this car. And for those who don't speak Gen Z, that essentially just means amazing, because I have a lot of back pain. If I'm doing a long trip, like that's a couple hours, I can just put the seat heating on and I feel so much better. Oh my gosh. And the passenger has it too. I believe that some of the BYD cars may or may not be getting or already have also seat cooling. The Dolphin doesn't currently have that, and I'm really sad about it. But in saying that, I'm just grateful to have seat heating at this price point. Like, wow, it's life-changing. Aside of seat heating, it's important to note that I am 5'1". I'd like to say 5'2", but it's realistically 5'1". I'm just short and petite. This car is one of the most comfortable cars I have ever sat in. I find that a lot of cars are made for big blokes, or just your average bloke who's probably more like 5'8" on average. I don't know if that's the average, apologies. But my dad, for example, he is driving the Atto 3 currently. He thinks it's excellent. He loves everything about it. But for me, it's just not as comfortable to sit in. I feel like your headrest juts forward more, whereas mine seems more flat, and that's a huge difference for me. It's arguably a better car, and because I'm driving the BYD Dolphin Premium, which is closer to the price point of an Atto 3, it would probably make more sense to own an Atto 3, but this little cute thing is just way more comfortable. With that being said, we should check out the back seat. Yeah, so this is the back seat experience, and as you can tell, I have quite a lot of headroom as the 5'1" girl that I am.
Here's okay, as long as you're back here, there's only just get a finger through. It's doable. It's just a bit tight here.
Yeah. And good news, if you're driving with me, you get a pretty good amount of legroom. Surprisingly spacious back here. We've got this cup holder situation, also still somewhat small, but fits a typical little water bottle. People in the back seat also get a regular USB and a USB-C charging port. Your back seat view, pretty standard stuff. There's a little touch light, a bit of the view out the back and out the sides, and there are cup holders in the middle here. Again, they are pretty inadequate. They're just really small. They fit a can, typical little water bottle, or a McDonald's cup, but they don't fit anything more unique than that. So in one regard, you may never notice, and in another, it might drive you insane. I've gotten used to it. Just noticed the speaker back here, and it's reminded me that the BYD Dolphin sound system is bloody fantastic. Hi BYD, turn up the volume.
Okay, set the media volume to 17.
some cars just don't hit. This one really delivers. Also, you may have noticed that I just spoke to my car. The car has a built-in assistant, which is like a voice assistant, similar to what you'd see on an Alexa or your phone. And it's really handy for doing things like adjusting the volume while you're driving or asking it to change the fan speed. I don't always use it, and I'll admit I was weirdly adverse to it when I first got the car. I thought it's too much technology in the car for me, and this is coming from a technology reviewer, but I'm starting to just love the convenience of that, and honestly, that's probably the future, so may as well just get on into it now and accept it. Nice convenience. So we have been hanging out inside the car for a long time now, and I still haven't even showed you the boot space, which I will do next, but I wanted to let you know that after that, I'm going to talk about charging the car. The Dolphin is incredible when it comes to boot space. It doesn't look like it's going to fit a lot on first impressions, but it's crazy how much you can pack into this thing, especially when you put the seats down. And that is a checked bag, not carry-on luggage. Look at that. And there's even more under here. There's no frunk on the Dolphin, so there's no storage space under the hood, but I do not think you're missing anything because the boot just has layers on layers of places to put things. And here's another angle of the space inside, so you really can fit a lot of volume in here if you need to. All right, let's talk about charging. This is an EV. Everyone always asks me, how do I like it? Is it easy? What are my thoughts in general? Well, where do I even begin? There's so much I could say. Firstly, this model is the BYD Premium. So its top range is 490 kilometers, which I think is the perfect amount of range so far for me. Don't know if I'd want to go lower to the baseline model, the BYD Dolphin Dynamic, which is about 410 kilometers. With this car, 490 kilometers is plenty. I've gone from the Gold Coast to Brisbane and then Brisbane to the Gold Coast and still had around 200 kilometers left of range on my car. And then I charge it, I don't know, every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how much driving I do. And I'm really lucky where I park my car, there is a typical standard Australian power point. And this car can be charged from a standard Australian wall plug AC power point. So I just get the big charging cable, I plug it into my car, and then I plug it into that port, and it's as simple as charging my phone. So kind of just what I do is within a 1 to 2 week period, I put this car on charge for about 2 nights in a row, and that's pretty much gets me to full or keeps me full. And I never actually need to use a public charging station. I don't need to. But if I do, that's a whole other can of worms, which I'll talk about in a second. So if you don't know, that is called like trickle charging. It's the slowest form of charging, and it is not necessarily typical way to charge. And that probably would give EVs a really bad name, like, oh, it's ridiculously slow. But this is especially great if you, one, don't want to go talk to people or see anyone, which you can do at a normal charging EV station anyway. But two, you can just do it at home, so it's super convenient. You don't need a special EV charger installed if you have a car that supports this kind of charging. And three, if you happen to have solar panels on your roof, which I know is a privilege, but it's amazing if you do have solar panels and an EV. Essentially, if you plug this in during the day alternatively, you can just power this car by the sun, and it's pretty much free to run, which is amazing. So that is simple, easy, and can be incredibly cheap or affordable, but you do need to obviously plan that into your week. Now, the more commonly known option is just taking your car to a charging station, which are popping up all over the country now. Obviously, it has been a bit of a challenging transition for some people because depending on where you live, there maybe aren't enough chargers for your car, or it can be difficult to go on a road trip. Those things are still somewhat true, but I'm finding it is getting more and more accessible to charge your car at an EV charger outside of your home. It's going to be on average 20 minutes to an hour to get enough charge to kind of go to the next charging point potentially. So if you can find a place to park while you're having a meal or doing an activity, you are going to be laughing. But if not, it's definitely going to delay you if you're doing like a road trip, for example. This car in particular, the BYD Dolphin Premium, charges a lot faster than the BYD Dynamic, the baseline model, which is a pretty affordable car. So this definitely wins in that regard, and it is compatible with the Tesla charging network. When it comes to BYD specifically, their battery technology with their Blade battery is actually amazing because you can charge from 0 to 100, no questions asked, no problem. Whereas you might find if you're going to buy an EV, some cars actually you're only allowed to charge them like up to 80%, or they can only go down to a certain percentage. But essentially the range of 0 to 100% with the lithium batteries in this car, it's no problem. So you don't have to think about what your battery's doing or how you should charge it or how often you should charge it. You can just charge it like you would your smartphone, like whatever habit that is, that's fine. The one thing they say in the manual though with BYDs is like every 6 months, take your battery, you know, down to like 10% and then charge it all the way up to full, just to do the chemical things. So when it comes to charging out and about at a charging station, things can get a little bit more complicated, and I probably will make more content about this because there's a lot to learn. So essentially there are heaps of different brands of chargers and you need their smartphone app essentially to use them. So for example, there's one called ChargeFox or Evie. And so you kind of need to download those first, sign up, put your credit card details in, and then when you get to one of those charging stations, you unlock a charger on the app, and then it like literally unlocks it. It releases it from the charging station and you can plug it in, and then that's how you pay for it. So you pay for it through your credit card, which is linked to your account in the app. And so that is where could be a little bit intimidating for people that aren't super tech savvy. But once you get used to it, it's all routine and it's easy. And I will say, Evie in particular is getting a lot easier to use now. Instead of doing all these bip, boop, bips on your phone, you can essentially like, I think, tap your phone, plug in the charger, then it'll tell you when it's done. You can drive away and it'll just automatically charge it to your credit card. And another amazing thing about having an EV is that the whole car is essentially a battery on wheels. And during the last few really bad storm seasons here in Australia, we've had people sharing their cars with their family and friends to use it essentially as a generator or a, you know, big power source for their fridge or whatever electronic device, charging up their mobile phones when we have had power outages from natural disasters. It's incredibly useful to own an electric car that has V2L. That is called vehicle to load, where you can plug things into the car. I am not here to say that petrol cars suck and EVs rule. I am just giving my experience with EVs. In fact, I'm now going to tell you what I don't love about this car. So number one are the tires. The factory fitted tires look really cool with the Dolphin little detail. The rims are sweet, but I feel like they don't have the best tread. The wheels have spun a little bit if I accelerate too hard when I'm in sports mode, which is super fun, but the wheels just can't keep up with how powerful this car is. Next though, for the BYD Dolphin, BYD means build your dreams, and people's biggest critique about these cars is that build your dreams they think is lame, and on the BYD Dolphin in particular, the back literally says build your dreams, and there's no moving it or getting rid of it. It is underneath. I've gotten used to it and I don't even think about it anymore. Next up, the software and software updates. The software, although it's really awesome, as you know, I now have the addition of wireless Apple CarPlay from a software update. But I will say the process of software updates on your car can still be a little tricky or confusing or glitchy. Sometimes, you know, a software update might come through a bit slower than other people's cars. You might be sitting there waiting for it, being like, when am I getting my turn to download the cool new features? The update might not appear at all, in which case to rectify that, you'd likely have to take your car to BYD showroom or a My Car, which is the company that services BYD specifically, and their technicians can just like sort out the IT side and update your car for you. So the process shouldn't be an issue, but it could add a couple more steps. So there's a lot of good that can come with software updates because you can make a car even better post-purchase, which is very rare. You know, a car is a depreciating asset. So really funny balancing act software updates, and I think things will get better and better. Well, at this point, I've almost entirely forgotten to tell you what it's like to drive the car. So we'll go on a little drive, and I'll put my glasses on because I do need them for driving. Let's talk about it. So it's terrible weather to be driving today. It's rainy, it's unbelievably windy. But what I love about this car is just on a nice day, the sound dampening of the interior is unreal. Like, it's so peaceful and quiet in here. And I totally understand the appeal of driving a petrol vehicle that goes vroom vroom. But there is definitely something to be said about the quietness of a EV and how unbelievably silent they can be, specifically the BYD Dolphin. Totally to each to their own. If it's not your thing and you just can't get over the rev sound not existing, I'm sure they're going to make more and more realistic sounds, which I know isn't quite the same. But currently this is just pure on silent. This car is switched to silent. Like everything about it is just quiet and gentle, unless you put it into sport mode. Now I cannot show you sport mode on a day like today, but if I put my foot to the floor on the accelerator, this thing goes. Instant torque on this baby is unreal in sport mode specifically. I drive it more in sport mode just because it's more fun and it's reliable. I know if I need to get across a busy intersection or accelerate onto a highway with a really short on-ramp, I'm gonna be able to do that safely. So it's super fun going from like 40 to 100 in, I think it's around 6 or 7 seconds or something, but it just feels really quick and really fun. But you also know that you can get up to speed if you need it. This little tiny car that probably looks laughable to some people because it's a pink little car with a little cute girl inside of it is badass. Like, it'll do it. It'll do what you need it to do. The only caveat to that is that sport mode absolutely takes up a lot more battery power. So if I'm driving all the time on sport mode, if I happen to be accelerating aggressively a lot, like highway driving and speeding onto the on-ramp often, it will definitely pull down your range of your car and you'll have to charge it more frequently. But because I use this car mostly just for running around my local suburb, I find that it's so worth just leaving it in sport mode and charging it more often because it's so fun. It's so fun. I can see everywhere at a glance. If I'm just putting my head over my shoulder, I know if I'm going to be able to make a safe turn or enter onto a highway, whatever, lane change. So I really appreciate that about the BYD Dolphin. And as I mentioned, if you want to be extra safe and you want to turn the aircon up, not only can you do that 3-finger swipe, but you can just say, "Hi BYD, turn the temperature to 24 degrees.
Got it. Setting the temperature to 24 degrees.
Like, what are we, in Iron Man in early 2000s? I got my own Jarvis. So what don't I like about driving a BYD Dolphin? Well, again, the traction on the factory wheels could be better, and I'd recommend changing them, especially being in wet weather. But aside of that, this car has really excellent safety features. It has like lane keep, it has distance keep when using cruise control, it has automatic braking, and those have been really helpful. It's once slammed on the brakes for me when I was backing out of my driveway and I almost collided with the car, hurtling down the street. But then alternatively, once it slammed on the brakes for me while I was coming to a halt, and it just mustn't have thought I was going to stop in time for the car in front of me, but I absolutely was. It was at night, it was dark, it was rainy, and it freaked me out because it slammed on the brakes earlier than I was kind of planning to stop. So there are little things like that where I think I'm still getting used to the features. Maybe they're a little bit too safe. But a lot of the community of BYD owners have been telling BYD about their experience with all these features and giving feedback. And the exciting and optimistic part of all this is that BYD's been listening and updating features to be better. So they're constantly improving. In the meantime, a lot of people have been turning off features they don't like or don't need, because all these new cars have so many built-in controls where they can override your driving. You know how lane keep, gently moves the steering wheel left and right depending on how well you're keeping in the lane. Like, if you don't want that, you can turn it off. Sometimes it will reset back to on when you restart the car, but people have also given BYD feedback about that, and they've made some features permanently off if you've toggled it off or vice versa. There's so much going on there. It's mostly customizable where I can make it to my liking. Let's see if it's still incredibly windy outside. Yeah. It's not the best weather today. The BYD Dolphin is an adorable little car that's easy to park. There's heaps of visibility when you're changing lanes, enough torque to easily go across traffic or get onto a highway. You can take it on a relatively long road trip without having too much battery anxiety. You've got amazing seat heating for comfort. You can open the sun visor to watch the stars. Oh my gosh, it does it all for me. and it is a really awesome first car or EV. Overall, it has been a delight, and if you've been delighted with my presentation today, then please give this video a thumbs up or let me know what you thought. And you're welcome to ask me any more questions. I'm going to be making heaps more content. You can find me at Ellie Awesome on socials or at Awesome EVs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.